Welcome to Coffee and a Mic. I'm Chris Clark, President and CEO of the Queen Creek Chamber of Commerce. Quick shout out to our sponsors. We'd like to thank SRP, Epcor, and Sidewalk Coffee and Bagel. Today we're joined by Mayor Julia Wheatley. Mayor, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. It's always great to be here.
You out. Yes, it's. We were just talking, I think it's our third time together now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We value your time, so we want to jump straight into it, and let's talk about Queen Creek's water supply.
Okay, let's talk about water.
Topic near and dear to our neighbors. We know what's happening in some of our neighboring cities. A lot of uproar, but what are we doing here in Queen Creek?
Sure. So Queen Creek, we've been very proactive with our water supply. It's very important to us. We're seeing now, the negotiations on the Colorado River and what that means to other communities, and we'll see how drastic those cuts have to be. So our ultimate goal is to provide a safe, reliable water source for our residents, that we don't have to worry about droughts. We don't have to worry about cuts. And so we just finalized a deal so that we are 90% drought resistant, cut resistant for our residents. And that ensures a 100-year water supply. So it definitely did not happen overnight. It's been at least 7 years. So it started with this concept that we essentially had to prove first, but there is a water basin in Harquahela. And so we were the first municipality to do this, but worked with them to be able to negotiate the water rights. The first deal was for 5,000 acre feet of water. And we successfully finished that transaction. Again, it took over 7 years, successfully finished that. And then we proved that concept worked, and we went back and purchased another 12,000 acre feet. And so what that does is that's an assured water supply for our residents. Again, over the next, it's 110 years. So our reason for doing that, not a lot of people recognize that there is a CAGRID. Most of our residents have a CAGRID fee. It's paid through your property taxes. I don't know what the percentage of people that have mortgages, but it's pretty high. So your mortgages typically have an escrow account that pays for your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance. So you might not even notice, but CAGRID, what that does is when you pay that on your property taxes, that is paying to replenish the groundwater that has been pumped here. So we have sufficient groundwater, but we want to make sure that we are good stewards of water. So every amount of water that we take out of the ground, we have to replenish. And so with CAGRID, we pay into that. It just gets more and more expensive. The price of water is just getting so expensive. And so our goal as a council, previous councils, current council, has been to reduce the cost of water, knowing that it's so expensive. And so our goal has been to eliminate that CAGRID fee. So since 2018, the town has been using water credits to offset our residents' CAGRID fees. So they have not been paying their CAGRID fees. The town has been using a credit. So over that time, we've saved our residents over $58 million. It's significant. It's significant, and it's kind of frustrating because not a lot of people even recognize that we're doing it. And so that's the savings that we have helped our residents and businesses with over the past several years. And our goal is to completely eliminate that CAGRID fee. And as we're purchasing this water, it is expensive. We will have to implement a fee, and we're still assessing what that looks like. But implementing that fee, knowing that this is the most cost effective, and if we can lock in the price of water today and have that taken care of, then that fee isn't going to continually increase the rate that we're seeing the CAGRID fees. So it's really, really significant for our residents. They've seen a tremendous amount of savings, whether they recognize it or not. It's a huge win. And then they'll continue to see a considerable amount of savings in the future. And so just very, very rewarding work that we've been doing. You know, gosh, how long was I in office? It was like, I think within the first few weeks when the governor came out and made the announcement that Queen Creek's out of...
Queen Creek had no water.
Right. So that was
helpful.
Fun for the whole state, right? But what it allowed Queen Creek to do is it allowed us to spin that story and say, well, this is what we're doing. This is how we're protecting our residents and our businesses so that we're not running out of water. And this is how we're securing that water source for the next 100 years plus.
And the town's been really at the forefront of that, and some of the people on staff, town staff, are actually some of the leading water people in the state, if not the whole country. So it's been very helpful. Queen Creek leads the way in that. And for those playing along at home, CAGRD, C-A-G-R-D, is the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District. And you don't notice it too much on your home because it is in your escrows, but your HOA.
Thank you for bringing that up.
I was on a HOA board once upon a time, and when it first got implemented, and we ended up with a bill at that first year of like $25,000 out of the blue, and then it just kept going up from there. So you pay it with your individual, and then you pay it for your common area too. So taking it out is going to be really effective for the residents. And I think that point that you made about locking in the price today really helps insulate us from those tripling of rates that some people might see.
Right, yeah. And you're seeing other communities follow suit and do it the same thing.
Yeah. And one of the things that paved the way was signing that agreement last year, as well as some legislation that we had to have to make that all possible. What were some of the other highlights as we sit here in the beginning of February from 2025? There was a lot to cover.
There was a lot. 2024, very exciting year. We're having our State of the Town. I want to make sure and invite everyone to that. And I should have the date off the top of my head.
February 24th.
Thank you.
Tuesday.
Okay, thank you. And so we'll talk about all the great accomplishments at that time. But no, it was a fantastic year. One of the things that I was most excited about was our Recreation and Aquatic Center. And so I've been on council for 16 years, and that was the biggest ask every single time was, when are we getting a pool? And so it's difficult because my oldest now is 16 years old, and they're kind of aging out of, but what that is able to provide to all of our residents, and to be able to have this gathering space, and so fun to see everyone there on the hot summer days and birthday parties and family gatherings and all that. So our aquatic center, our rec center, another great way to get out of the heat during the summer. So that was very, very rewarding. And we're doing all of these things while reducing property taxes. So last year we eliminated our downtown sales tax, which was 0.25%. So that was huge. I remember getting a letter from the president of Vestar, and he's like, "This doesn't happen." Like,
right?
if there's a tax in place, government doesn't eliminate it. There's always a reason to keep that revenue coming. Oh, we can pay for this, and oh, we can build this, and he's like, kudos to Queen Creek for doing that. So that's an important win. And then, yeah, of course. So we're in the middle of a 5-year property tax freeze, and last year was our 3rd year. Cumulatively, that is $20 million savings to our residents and our business owners. So that's significant as well. But just so proud of the things that we're doing. Ranked the second safest city in Arizona. First one's Marana. They have a very high seasonal visitor. And so, but we're hot on their tails, so.
We'll take them anytime now.
But that's really exciting. Ranked the #1 place to live in Arizona by US News. And yeah, it's just so, I was just doing an interview, the fastest boomtown in Arizona, 3rd fastest in the country as far as percentage base. And so we're doing all these great things to build a community, to have a sustainable lifestyle here. We're doing all these great things, and the word gets out, and people move here a lot faster and quicker than anticipated, and that leads to the boom town, right? And so with that, it just presents its own challenges with growth. And so it's just, I think it's really important to recognize our successes and what we're doing to just be a great, well-balanced community, and also recognizing what that brings with it is growth. You know, I was talking to someone, they came from the Portland area, and how just ripple effects of policy there has affected their community, and people are moving out like crazy. And like he was talking about, you know, in a certain area, homes, you couldn't buy a home in there, and if you did, they were 1.5. Now you can't give them away for 500,000. Like, it's wild what's happening. And when you see areas that people are just, it's depopulation, versus here we're exploding because of, I feel like, good policy decisions and just a good environment, business environment. I mean, there's so many things that factor into that.
Yeah, we had talked about that, I think, during your time on council before you became mayor. It used to be when I would tell people I was in Queen Creek, and they would say, and where is that? Here in the valley. And now we certainly don't have that problem. They always say, oh, I heard about something that the town is doing. So that's kudos to you guys, and everything that you're doing up there on the dais. Speaking of Portland, so one of the examples of what not to do with your housing, Portland decided to draw a ring around their expansion and had said no more expansion beyond this. And that was their goal, was to eliminate urban sprawl, which then brought about all kinds of troubles that who could have seen coming. But you're right, now it's depopulating. We certainly don't have that problem here. 3rd fastest, you said, but if you look at the stats, one of the ones in front of us is like cheating. It was like a brand new community.
I did see that.
And it's built like 100 houses, and yeah.
It's like a square mile or something. It's #1 in Texas. It's very small. Yeah.
So percentage-wise, they beat us, but that's about all. But that does bring up prices have certainly accelerated here in Queen Creek, and it's no longer a place that you come to for affordable housing. So has the town talked about that, and what are y'all looking at? And then I think along with that, everybody's solution seems to be, we'll just build more rentals, and that will make it affordable somehow. So what's your take on that, and what are you looking at?
So a big success for Queen Creek is our accessory dwelling units. And so we actually lead the state, even the very populated cities, as far as number of accessory dwelling units. So that's something, legislation just passed that a couple of years ago. My years run together. But so that's one area. We work really closely with our development community, and we've been able to streamline so many areas, make a lot of things that used to have to go to Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Council Commission, to make that approved administratively. So it saves the developers a lot of time, a lot of holding costs, which hopefully they pass on to that new home buyer, right? Reducing property taxes is a huge way to help with affordable housing. Queen Creek has always been great at holding property values and appreciation, and I think it has a lot to do with our design standards and just the quality of our development here. And so just making sure that we're continuing to do things, working with the development community where we can to make that process easier. I know just building more apartments isn't the answer. We're starting to see those occupancy rates really start to tank. So you hear it at the legislature all the time that just build more, dense. And you've seen that in communities, these apartment complexes going up and the occupancy rates are not there. So it's not the answer.
Right.
There's I work in the mortgage industry, and let's just look at mortgage rates and where they've been over the last couple years, and the cost of land, the cost of labor, the inability to get labor, and there's just the cost of materials. There's so many things that factor into that. It's not of one solution is going to fix this. It's not a more faster solution. It's recognizing what those constraints are and working where we can, but still maintaining the quality development and community that we want. Because we know things are cyclical as far as the market, and so you can't base future off of what's going on right now. You can't say, okay, just all development come in, no design standards, whatever you want to build for this constraint we're going through right now, knowing that in a few years it will change. So we're building a community, and people choose Queen Creek for a reason. And at the legislature, I feel like, especially when it comes to housing, there is definitely a one-size-fits-all approach where what works in Tempe might not work in Queen Creek. And I love to ask people why they live where they live. You choose your community for a reason. And if we're going to have a one-size-fits-all approach, it might as well just be this mass conglomerate and everything's the same, right? But you choose your community. Queen Creek, by design, more open space. We have our equestrian feel and agriculture feel, and so we want to be able to maintain that and keep that without the legislature saying, nope, this is what we want across the board, it doesn't matter.
Build where you want, what you want, and however you want to make it look.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we used to talk about, was the difference between driving from Gilbert into Mesa. You don't really notice a difference. Mesa into Tempe, other than along the town lake now with all of the high rises. So when you drove into Queen Creek, we wanted it to be something that you felt a little bit different. And I think it does come to those design standards. The buildings all look a little bit different, and people notice.
Yeah.
I like when I come to the dais on any type of zoning amendments, and usually it's about, we have a good plan, let's stick to the plan, and council has pretty much done that. I think that's led to all of the difference. But speaking of the plan, we have a good plan.
We have a good plan.
But what is the plan for those people who aren't familiar with that?
Yeah, so we have a general plan. It's voter approved, it goes before the voters, and they have to give us the thumbs up or thumbs down, and we work with our community. We're actually just at our last council meeting, we just kicked off our next general plan update. So you're required to do it every 10 years, And our last one was adopted 2018. So even though it sounds like 2028 is forever away, we have to start planning for it now. And we have to start getting out with the residents and talking to them about what's important. This is the plan. And it was so neat because while we were introducing this, we had a lot of high school students there. They had to come to a council meeting to fulfill their government class requirement. And so to be able to tell them, you know, what a general plan is. And when you move into a community, that community has a general plan, and that's what they're planning for the future. So if you want to know what your community looks like today, but what's it going to look like in the future? And so how all of those land use elements come together is so important. Where is your industrial going to be? Your jobs, where is your commercial and your residential and open space and parks and transportation, all of those things to see the ultimate plan. So I love that. It's, to me, holding to the general plan is so key. It's so important, and recognizing this is what our residents want to see. So.
And it is a living document, so it does change occasionally when it makes sense.
Yeah, that's exactly what we call it, a living, breathing document where zoning requests can come forward and we can say, hey, it doesn't, in this area, it doesn't exactly make sense. Okay, tell me why it doesn't make sense. And then comes before the council to make that decision. Okay, do we make that change or do we keep it the way that it was envisioned before? So.
And I think you touched on it, but the document is made up from people, all of the different meetings. This is a great opportunity. We're at the beginning of now where the town will reach out and say, hey, come to these meetings. And most people think that they're either not qualified or they're too boring. And that they just don't matter, but putting the colors on the map in the right places, and where will those apartments go? Because there is a place for apartments, but maybe not in the middle of a neighborhood, but next to our shopping centers, things like that. So this is the chance for them to be involved. I love on Facebook, the few times that I get on, they say it's all closed backroom deals and done in secret, and but this is the call to action. Right?
Yeah, and it's frustrating. It's all a very transparent process, and nothing gets pushed through. There's no backdoor deals. It's very transparent. It's meeting after meeting after meeting. By the time it gets to a council decision, it's been refined so many times. And what's important that residents need to educate themselves with is they have the opportunity to be part of that process. When something comes before council, we want to see, okay, because they always have neighborhood meetings, when residents show up, what were their concerns? How were those met? Are they valid concerns? And so they have the ability to change what's being presented if they get involved. And so that's the key, right? And how a project evolves from where it started to where, if it does get that final approval, how many changes were made, really working with the residents to make sure that it really fits within that area or that neighborhood. Buffering is really important, and there's a lot of different elements. We did an update to our zoning ordinance with buffering, and so just how important that is to surrounding uses and communities.
Buffering being those transitions. I think the north area of town is a good example of that, where we put in a little bit of flex warehouse, a low intensity use.
Exactly.
That separates the heavy industrial across the street from the housing, like Barney Farms.
Yeah. Yep.
And those transitions are key. Otherwise, you end up with all of the noise complaints, and, noxious smells, and things like that. So, really important that folks be involved in that. They can also find the document online That's my other favorite thing. Is
Yes.
people don't know, and they'll say, "Well, I never saw that," and it's right there on the town's website.
Right.
Along with all of the meetings. So I always encourage people to go there and watch the meetings either live or afterwards.
And to get involved in the next update, it's the town website, so townofqueencreekaz.gov. I think it's /plan QC.
I like it.
think.
Yeah. If
My
that's not
memory-
exactly right,
If my
you
memory
can find
serves you,
it.
you can find it on the website.
Yeah. If you get a
But that's
404,
a-
you know you're close.
It's a great way to get involved.
Yeah, it is. And speaking of all of that development, one thing that we didn't talk about, and we didn't talk about before, but the town center. Oh my gosh, everything is coming out of the ground at once. I was telling our economic development director, everybody's going to think this was so easy because it all pops up overnight. But it's all been in the works for years. Do you want to highlight some of those and then what it really took?
It's so exciting, and it has been years. And it's interesting, like I remember when Gilbert's downtown took off, and a great quote by their mayor at the time, Mayor Lewis, was the 50-year overnight success. And for us, it hasn't been 50 years. We're only 36 years old, but people are very excited about their downtown and what it's going to look like. And Queen Creek will have a great downtown, but it's exciting. We have over $200 million in private investment going in our downtown right now, and over 200,000 new square feet being added. But we have a lot going on right next to our library. Some development in there called the Switch Yard. We're adding office space, which is desperately needed. We approved a couple small office space that had come through, and that was the first that has even come forward in 15 years. And so we had a couple small, but this will provide a tremendous amount of office space. We always have business owners that say, hey, I'm a resident of Queen Creek, I have a business in Queen Creek, but I don't have an office in Queen Creek. I want an office. And so, government doesn't build office space, and I don't think they should be in the business of building office space, but we have that private development coming forward and working with them, and so that'll be tremendous, but a lot of very popular restaurants as well. And then in our downtown here, the Rusty Buckle, which is right on our corner of Ellsworth and Ocotillo. We're getting more office space on the corner of Ellsworth Loop in Ocotillo. Yes, with the Matheson, and that'll be a beautiful development. And so it's great to see the office space. It's great to see more retail and restaurants and just a lot of development happening in our downtown.
And of course, a brand new Circle K, we're reconfiguring our Circle K finally.
Yes, finally.
The second hotel.
The second hotel, absolutely, yeah. Very excited about the Circle K just across the street. They've wanted to do it for some time, so I'm glad to see them doing that. And
yeah, I only wish that we could have gotten them to build it the way they did at Schnupp Farms. But
yeah, right. But we have, like, you look at our big developments outside of Costco, that's fully leased. The new Target, fully leased. And so, yeah, a lot of demand for that commercial space.
We just did a lunch break over there at the new Vineyard Center, the new Target Center. And that's my favorite thing to say now, is that we have to drive all the way across town, because there isn't all the way across town now.
Yeah, and it's like, which Target?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. Which fries did you get there?
Which Sprouts? Yeah.
Exactly. That's great.
Yeah.
Anything that you wanted to bring up that we haven't talked about yet?
Oh goodness, what else? I mean, there's always something going on in Queen Creek.
Right. It's one of my favorite questions. So what's new in Queen Creek? I'm like, nothing.
Have you been to Queen Creek this month?
Exactly.
Then you haven't been to Queen Creek. There's always something new, always something changing. So No, I mean, I think we covered a lot of really what our focal points have been: water and development, and excited to see LG Energy Solution. They will be starting production in the summer and continuing to see more jobs added because of that. I'm going to the training center just next week where they work with locals to be able to develop those skills to work right here in Queen Creek, and reducing, that does bring me to a good point that I'd love to talk about, that but reducing the impact on our roads because they're commuting to Queen Creek. They're not commuting to Phoenix or Tempe, and what a quality of life factor that is, and how it reduces the demands on our transportation. So transportation, always the top thing to talk about in Queen Creek. It was just 2005 that we got our first stoplight in Queen Creek. So you think about 21 years, what we've accomplished in 21 years.
Right.
And, you know, back then we didn't have an Ellsworth Loop. We didn't have a State Route 24. We didn't have any of those things, right? And so tremendous strides. We're always working to increase our transportation and decrease the amount of time our residents spend on it. We do have, you know, interesting factors with the railroad coming through Queen Creek and two washes. So it's difficult because it's not an exact grid pattern when you take all of those different things into account. But we continue to make it a focus and recognizing, just at a council meeting a couple nights ago, our chief of police said the amount of vehicles circulating on the roadways in Queen Creek has increased 150% in the last year.
Wow.
Circulation of vehicles, 150%. And our population increase has been 8%. And what he was highlighting is our collisions have only seen an increase of 6%. So when you look at 8% increase in population, 150% increase in just vehicles circulating, that's tremendous. And so they do great work, you know, trying to keep people safe out there, but recognizing there's tremendous impacts with the Santan Valley, which that's been new in the last year, right, with their incorporation, and I'm very excited for them. But the amount of traffic that has to pass through Queen Creek, and it's not just Santan Valley. We get Eastmark, we get East Gilbert, all of those areas. But another statistic that our chief has provided, and it was so interesting. This was last year, but they're able to determine how many vehicles come through Queen Creek. So last year it was about 150,000 vehicles every single day. And when I met with them beginning of this year, it's about 180,000. So just in that small time frame, how many, and that vehicles per day. So I have to break it down for people. Queen Creek, we've got about 88,000 residents. So if every man, woman, and child had a car and drove it on our streets, that would be 88,000 cars. So we're looking at about 180,000 vehicles on our roads. So it's just, it's good to keep that in perspective. Traffic is, you know, depending on the day, it can be heavy, but transportation is key for us. We're always trying to work on how we can improve it. I think for me, one of my main focuses is going to be the Pinal Parkway. There is no funding for it right now, which is usually true for a lot of transportation projects. It goes on the outskirts of Queen Creek. But what that does is it allows traffic to the south of us to be able to pass through without
coming through town.
Without coming through town, and recognizing that the non-grid pattern that we have and all the constraints we have already, there's a lot to take into consideration. And so that is really at a regional level going to be one of my priorities and my focuses, because although it directly impacts our neighbors to the south, it definitely has an indirect impact to Queen Creek because of the amount of vehicles that are coming through Queen Creek. And honestly, for a town of 88,000, we shouldn't have to build out road and spend these hundreds of millions of dollars to build our roads like freeways. I mean, it's almost like that's what people want is freeways through, and we got to keep our residents safe, and so we're building to our ultimate build out, but also recognizing that we need to support the transportation efforts of those around us and how it will impact our residents.
And I think that's an important part of the plan. Ironwood getting its full improvements, particularly at the 24, will help divert some of that traffic. The 505, I think they're calling it now, the North-South Parkway someday, and then the Pinal Parkway. All great stuff to try and get traffic to be on the outskirts. And then as well as getting the employment. So as we build out the state trust land around LG Energy Solutions and some of the land that Santan has set aside, then we'll have more jobs right here and people don't have to commute as much.
Right.
So.
And it's a huge draw to those employers as well to be able
Right.
to have those transportation corridors right in their backyard.
Well, Mayor, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure as always.
Likewise.
I don't know if we have any questions from the audience, but we have just a minute or two. Any questions for the mayor? Oh,
Just a shout out to you and your city council. I think it really is really forward thinking, especially what you did with the Harquahala water project, because it really does secure you and your city for the next 100 years. Whether, I know it came with a price tag, but that price tag is only getting more expensive. And give a shout out to Paul Gardner, who, in my opinion, is one of the best water policy advisors. You guys are really lucky to have him because he's really, really good.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. He's the best. He's the best in the state and probably the country. He's fantastic and really the one that brought this to council and said, hey, we really need to take a look at this and consider this, and just starting those conversations all the way through to getting the deal done, which the amount of effort and it's remarkable. It's remarkable that we were able to make it work, and with Paul leading the charge. So we have a great team. All of our water and utilities are they're cutting edge as far as how strategic and forward thinking they are. And so really the kudos goes to them. The ultimate decision lies in the council, right? Are we willing? The most recent one came with a price tag of $244 million. So are we willing to spend that amount of money? But it is teamwork, and we've done fantastic, and so I appreciate that. And I don't know if our residents will recognize it as much now, but in the future, in years to come, they'll say, hey, that council 20 years ago,
that was a good decision.
They knew what they were talking about.
I think that's all part of the layering of what makes the place so special. And so I get to work with a lot of municipalities, not all as forward-thinking and cutting edge. So we appreciate you and the council. Thank you again so much for your time. We'd like to thank SRP, EPCOR, and Sidewalk again.
Great.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.